You think CEOs make too much money?
Do you think television reporters make too much money? I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if television reporters are making such a great amount of money, and then those at the bottom of the television business aren't making much. CEOs are.
I'm just guessing
the
that
wealth of CEOs is going up at an amazingly high rate relative to the rank and file.
I'm just guessing that if you that someone must have decided that you in the seat draws more viewers than if you and your cameraman switch places, and therefore you command a higher wage for the job you do. Even though when I chatted with the fellow back there, he seemed, I liked him a hell of a lot.
He's a good guy, but
very good guy, and probably works hard.
But the spread between what I make and what he makes is probably way small compared to what you made compared to the rank and file, no? Or what any CEO makes to the rank and file, no?
It's a widespread, and it's dictated by, somebody somewhere must have the misapprehension that people in those jobs are doing a job that the next best job who could be in that job wouldn't fulfill.
Do you think it's out of whack, though?
Out of whack with what, Scott?
Well, I mean, I'm just asking you a question that Jamie Dimon was asked this past week or a week before on 60 Minutes by Leslie Stahl. I mean, that's sort of gets back to the heart of the conversation we're having.
I think what you have to decide, it's like if you film a movie and you get the #1 box office star to be in that movie, and you think, what is that movie worth with the #1 box office star in it versus the number 40 box office star? And if somebody thinks they can make an extra $50 million by having the #1 guy in it, what's that guy worth as a differential over the other guy? Every industry has its own has its own market mechanisms. I don't think anybody should apologize where they end up in that process. And then you can ask them what they do with the money, whether they're good citizens, whether they, give back to society, whether it serves an important social purpose or whether it's counterproductive. I think these are all fair things. I'm not criticizing you for asking the question, although maybe you shouldn't ask it 10 different times.
Well, I think it's at the that gets to the heart of why we're having the conversation about income inequality and why people like Elizabeth Warren put people on Wall Street in television.
I don't think the whole economic system hinges on whether Taylor Swift or the NFL quarterback versus the lineman or this or that, what the relative proportion. I think it's an important thing if you're talking on the side about that particular industry or what it can afford. But I think the real issue for the overall economy in a macro sense is, again, what should be the extent of government participation. That's one of the big debates now, whether the government should take over health care, whether the government should take over housing,
Medicare
all those
for
elements.
All, things like that.
And then the distribution question is one of calibration and degree. And where I am on that spectrum, which was the observation that I made, was that I may be in the middle. I'm not an extreme end of that spectrum. I grew up in, public housing in, New York City. My dad worked nights at the post office. I might surprise you in that I never behaved in my life to maximize my income over other considerations, and so I might find myself kind of as kind of directionally aligned with people who would like to see a more equally calibrated kind of distribution of the system, but I don't want to do anything to impede the wealth creation of the system. And that's a little bit what the debate should be about, if you ask me.